welcome to AWS On Air, live at reInvent. You may be wondering, what is this professional cryptozoologist doing sitting here on this tech show? First of all, thank you. Thank you for recognizing the vibe I put out. But no, I'm A.M. Garbelny, a developer advocate here at AWS and one of your hosts for AWS On Air. However, this is a takeover, Steve.
This is a takeover. We are taking over the On Air.
This is no longer On Air.
Yep.
This is AMster and the Brit's Code Corner.
Indeed
the show within the show.
Show within the show.
Yes.
Yeah, we are going to show some code.
AMster,
the Brit,
a.k.a. Steve Roberts, developer advocate for .NET, with an amazing shirt. Look at this shirt.
Yeah, I was totally inspired by that audio graffiti yesterday from the AWS Arts.
Yes.
So I went out, got myself a white shirt, crayoned all over it.
Yeah.
And then when I was hungry in the middle of the night, I just ate the crayon.
You ate the crayon?
I ate the crayon. So there we go. Yeah. All right. So we are back with another live coding session.
Yeah. So Code Corner. We actually do some coding live here for our folks in the audience.
If you caught us yesterday, well, hang on a minute. I'm not fully dressed. There we go.
Oh,
now I'm dressed for Code Corner. All right, as the Brit. Okay,
I was worried.
right.
I was
so
worried.
yesterday we took a Lambda function.
Yes.
That we're actually showing on screen right now. A typical Lambda function signature, right?
Okay.
We have an object, in this case, an API gateway proxy request, right?
Yes.
One of the predefined event classes. Or it could be a POCO, plain old C# object.
Yes.
Right? And the Lambda context. We took this and we used the new Lambda Annotations framework that's in pre-release right now.
Okay.
And converted it to show how that would look. So here is the converted version, right? We added a new NuGet package, Amazon.lambda.annotations, okay, which is in pre-release, and make sure you add it with a pre-release tag. And then we changed the function method to, instead of taking that event object, the logical parameters instead. So we have an input, an output. We annotated them to say, hey, they're coming from the query parameters or from the body. This is a function that converts text from one language to another.
Yes.
Okay? And then we annotated the method with a Lambda function attribute and a HTTP attribute that said this is the post API, and we could use a REST API path, or in this case, just a root path. And then we just deployed that. So we deployed it to the console.
And this is what I told you yesterday, too. You know, this makes it look a lot more like ASP.NET, which is a lot more familiar for a lot
attributed, attributed coding is something that .NET developers have had since day one.
Right.
So it's something we're quite familiar with. And so we deployed this using the Amazon Lambda tools from the .NET CLI. We're going to do that again shortly.
Okay.
And here in Postman, I have the deployed API.
Yes.
So let's just make a change to this and just add 20 on the end.
Okay.
All right? We're going to send that, and we should get a response back in Welsh.
English
to Welsh, okay? So at the end of the session, we started to talk about dependency injection.
Right.
Which is another feature inside this new annotations framework.
Okay. Can you give like a 30-second, what is dependency injection?
So dependency injection is it's basically a container that holds services or objects that you want to be added into your code when it runs. So instead of, let me give you an example. So in the code right now, you'll see that we are newing up an Amazon Translate client, right? As part of the Lambda function.
Yes.
It would be nice if we just registered that with a dependency injection services layer.
Right.
And then when we need it, we just call on it. So we just have it added to the project,
You usually pair these with interfaces and then a concrete implementation of the class so that you can have different implementations that adhere to that interface, and then in your DI container, that's where you declare, I need this type of cache, or this is where I need this database, right?
And then on your method, you just request, I want this particular type, and it will come from the dependency injection container without me needing to supply it.
In your actual methods, you're calling the interface usually, right?
So what we're going to do now is to convert this one step further to use the new dependency injection support and see what it looks like, okay? So the way we get started is we're going to first add a file to this. We'll call it startup.cs because that's what an ASP.NET program will be familiar with.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And we're going to add a couple of things to the project. So first, we're going to add a new NuGet package. So we're going to I've lost the ability to type again. It must be the glare from the shirt. That's what it is.
That is.
That's what it is.
I think it might be the crayon you ate.
It could well be, yes. So anyway, Microsoft.extensions.dependency injection. Now, derp dependency injection. Here we go. I can't even follow the shadowed text. OK, so we'll add that. Now, one thing to note is there is a project scaffolding in the .NET CLI that I mentioned yesterday that will generate a new project for you using the annotations framework, right? If you use that as your starting point, you don't need to add this package. It's already built in. It's already assumed, okay? Because we came from an original Lambda function, I'm adding it. There's one other thing I need to do, which is to add another package. And this is one we've had for a while for the SDK, which works with ASP.NET. So it's AWS SDK. extensions. Again, this is just coming from NuGet, extensions.NET Core .setup. And this is one that we use to help with dependency injection and so on. OK, so let's add a couple of extension methods into my project. So let's go back to the code. And we're going to, inside here, we're going to put a using statement using Microsoft extensions and since you told me yesterday I didn't use the IntelliSense, there you go. OK?
Hey, there we go. That's
And we'll add a namespace in here called translator. Well, I will do when my fingers work, translator. OK, right. So let's add our class, public class startup, right? Startup. Startup. Man, I really need to learn to type. All right, and in there, I'm going to add a new method, public void configure services. So this will be immediately familiar to any ASP.NET Core programmer. Okay?
Yes.
Configure
Yeah.
services. And this takes a nice service collection, which we'll call services. Okay? So what I want to do is new up that translate client when this whole process starts.
Okay.
And then use dependency injection to add it to my Lambda function when I need it.
Right.
Okay? So there are two ways we can do this. This is going to be a singleton object. So this is one way to do it, right? So
singleton meaning there's only one.
Only one, created once. This client has no state, so this is ideal for
Right.
this. I'll show you the scoped version in a moment, right? So we're going to do services, add AWS service. And because I didn't have the namespace, I'm going to fill it out completely. Amazon Translate. It would be Amazon Translate. Okay? So I'm going to have that added on demand when I need it.
Okay.
So to use that, back in my function, I'm going to declare a constructor, public functions. And I'm going to give that, whoops, sorry, Amazon Translate. There we go.
And you'll need a property to store that in, right?
Yep. So we're going to put that in this underscore, let's call it, what do I call it in here? Translate client. All right, let's call it this underscore, oops, don't want the capital. Translate client equals client. Client. Man, I really cannot type today. All right. So, and then we'll
declare
just
that
here,
property.
Amazon Translate client. Okay?
There you go.
I mistyped it identically. That's quite funny. All right, so now I'm going to remove this code here. I don't need to new it up in the function. Okay. But I am going to add it. Sorry, I'm going to choose it from there. So var request is that, and here's our client, translate client.
There you go.
That's one way to do it.
Okay.
Okay. So if I was using a singleton, that's how I would approach the problem.
All right.
Now, if I had a client, let's say that had some state in it, needed to be scoped to the request.
Yes.
Right? I would do it a different way. So let's use that one instead. All right? So having gone through all that pain, we'll do it a different way.
Right. The DI container allows you to declare what type you need, right?
Yeah.
I need a singleton. I need a new object with each request, for example. And so that's what you're...
So this is going to be the new object with each request.
Okay.
We'll assume that the particular client needs this, right?
Okay.
So let's delete the constructor now. Having gone to the pain of typing all that in, I don't need it. All right? What I'm going to do is instead declare it on the method. Okay?
Oh,
so
interesting.
I'm going to say Amazon Translate. I'm going to call it client, just to be different. Okay? Now, how do I know where that's coming from, right? Lambda's not going to provide that to me.
No.
Right? So what I do is I use another attribute from the annotations framework called from service.
Oh, okay.
Okay? At least I think it's called from service. Or is it from services? I can never remember. Oh, actually, I need to do one more annotation. So in startup, I do have a little cheat sheet down below here. I'm going to annotate this class and call it Amazon.lambda.annotations. And it's a Lambda startup.
Okay.
Right? So now that our .NET runtime on Lambda is aware, well, it's going to be generated by source generators, right? So the code, the scaffolding for this will be added at build time.
We talked about this yesterday, right? An annotation is actually going to resolve to code in your actual, deliverable at the end of it all.
Yes.
And the people who are shipping the library of annotations have written the implementation code for you, and that's what gets added to your package.
Done automatically. So now we have the from services attribute, okay? Everything is annotated. If the demo gods are with us, we should be able to deploy this.
Okay.
So we're going to, let's just clear this out for a moment and do .NET Lambda deploy serverless.
So we talked about this yesterday too, but for anyone joining us today, Steve is using the AWS built-in .NET Lambda tooling for the .NET CLI that we supply as AWS.
Yes, there's a .NET CLI extension, amazon.lambda.tools on NuGet. You install it with .NET CLI. So we'll call this translator, same stack. I really could have persisted these ones yesterday. So I need a bucket for the upload of the build. So this is going to be Steve demo US West 2, the same bucket I used yesterday. Okay. So this will build, hopefully. Fingers crossed, or I haven't nerfed that up.
You never know.
You never know.
But that's why we do it live.
That's why we do it live, okay?
So we can see you figure out when it breaks, how to fix it.
This is right. Hopefully it won't break.
That's true. And as this is building too, remember, we are live and monitoring chat. So if you have any questions, if you're curious about what we're doing, curious about why Steve is doing something that he's doing. For example, using C#. He's got plenty of reasons why to use C#, I'm sure. But even if you have a question like that, please feel free to drop it in chat, because I'm checking it out. I'm watching.
All right, so we're just waiting for this to update. One thing I wanted to show you was I mentioned a couple of times the project scaffolding.
Yes.
Right? So this is in the amazon.lambda.templates NuGet package. All right, so what that lets you do is say .NET New. Once you install it, .NET New -I, name of the package. If I just list all the packages I have right now, you'll notice there's a whole bunch for Lambda here. But here is the new Lambda Annotations framework preview. So I can do .NET New, serverless.annotations, and get a whole project scaffolded for me, complete with example REST API, and the dependency injection, because you can do more than just service clients, ready to go. So recommend checking that one out. That's what's used in the blog post.
Okay.
Okay, so it's deployed. There's our URL. It's the same URL.
Okay.
Now, we didn't change the inputs to the function.
No, we just set up DI. That's it, right?
But we should have a URL here starting U740 or U740, ending in X4C4. Let's just check that's the right one. There it is, U74, so it's the same URL. Okay. So what should we ask for this time? Shall we say we've jumped into the future and we're back at 2023?
We're living in the future, Steve.
Living in the future, and let's convert this to, I don't know, Spanish?
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Let's see if it works. Oh, I nerfed something up.
Oh, that's okay. We're also getting asked to get the terminal a little bit bigger, too.
Ah, okay. That's a bit tricky right
Developer
now.
Steve, which
Developer
is
Steve.
this just your alt account? Developer Steve?
No, that's not me. That's not me. All right, let's see.
Just
What
kidding.
might I have done wrong? We have a few minutes left. So we added the extensions namespace. We redeployed it. Everything built. What did I miss in the code?
Yeah, let's.
Amazon Translate
Can you increase the size so people can see this?
1 second.
Command plus.
Thank you very much.
You got it. You're new to Mac.
I am new to Mac, yes. We probably aren't going to get this done in time because we have like a minute and a half left, and I want to make sure I leave people with the repo. But yeah, I'm going to go and debug that one offline. Anyway, so the thing I wanted to leave you with is, let me see. Let me get. I said new to Mac. I'm new to the gestures. Whoops. There we go. Here we go. So anybody interested in this? Go check out the Developer Tools blog on AWS. Right?
Yeah.
My colleague Norm put a blog post out earlier this year about the new Lambda Annotations framework. It shows you basically what we went through yesterday, the new project scaffolding, how the annotations work with source generators. You can also do this from Visual Studio, by the way.
Okay.
And then at the end, how to extend the sample and so on. And he talks about dependency injection. Now, this is pre-release. It's in design right now. The team are interested in getting your design feedback. So if you go to the AWS-lambda-.net GitHub repo,
yes,
that you can get access to the README that describes the design document and an issue where you can actually comment on the design.
Okay.
All
And
right?
they need feedback.
They need feedback. Yeah, they want to see. Do you like this? Do you like where it's going? What suggestions do you have for the team that they can consider implementing?
Yeah.
Yeah, please help us out here. Yeah, what do you think? Do you
All
like
right.
this way of programming? Do you not like this way of programming? What could we add?
What could make it better?
What could make it better?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, stay tuned. We'll have more here live, and AWS On Air will resume. No more Code Corner, but we'll be back with more content for you. So stay right here.